Heaven and Earth here. I'm going to do a quick video discussing the patterns of Welo Opal. By no means will this be an exhaustive list, but it should be fun. Let's look at some Opal. Honeycomb. When these columns of potch on the side here are cut across perpendicularly, they reveal a gorgeous pattern. Here is a slightly more concentric example of the honeycomb pattern. And a third example of honeycomb. Fish scale, much like the honeycomb pattern, is named for its opaque lines of potch, and it is the same phenomenon, just less consistent and less symmetrical. You'll find triangles and trapezoids and rectangles all splayed out in a bit of a random pattern. The backside of the same stone is a fun example of how kind of muddy patterns can get. Is this fish scale, or is it tons of flagstone? Snakeskin is another brother to the honeycomb pattern besides fish scale. It tends to be smaller. It's really anything that resembles snakeskin with the potch patterns more than it would resemble a honeycomb or a fish scale. It tends to be smaller sections and sometimes elongated. Flagstone. It's just very well defined cobblestone shaped flashes of color that don't roll across the stone but flash in one spot when shown from the right angle. Flagstone and chaff. This is a pattern that a lot of people aren't aware exists in Ethiopian opal. It's definitely not super common. Chaff is the thin strips you see up there on the upper left in green, or there in the yellow and blue alternating section in the lower middle. The thin strips that look like the husk off of grain, and especially when they lay across each other, they look like husks on a grain floor. When paired with flagstone, they really do make a very pleasing geometrical juxtaposition. Entirely chaff. Flagstone and chaff. A touch of chaff here and there, but we're moving into broad flash. Broad flash is that big sweeping color, rolls across the stone and hits really hard. Rolling flash. Key difference I think between broad flash and rolling flash seems to be that broad flash will be one strong steady color, and rolling flash will often be striated and light enough to show another color right next to and or under it at the same time. Rolling flash can often be very liquid appearing, very watery. Rolling flash. Pinfire. Little pin-sized specks of glitter. Moss pattern in the upper section. Like pinfire, but shown in larger clusters, coagulated sections. And toward the bottom, working into a confetti pattern. From moss into confetti. Confetti pattern with a touch of pinfire. Pretty much pure confetti here with just a touch of chaff on the edges. Floral pattern, which can have a lot of different sub-patterns in it. A little bit of moss and chaff and pinfire, or even touches of flagstone or rolling flash. It seems to be more about the look of pollen than it does a flower. Reverse honeycomb, which is all about the negative space, and at the right angle it gets occupied by some gorgeous bright fire. Last and absolutely not least, puzzle or jigsaw pattern. It's much like flagstone, but exemplified by interlocking parts, and often has very smooth, rounded edges, just like a jigsaw puzzle would. This is the best example of puzzle pattern I've ever seen online or at a show and in all of my pieces. It's extremely difficult to photograph video. It just does not show on video the way it does in person. All of these colors are constantly flashing and constantly interlocking. It's a real shame that I can't get it to show on video the way it shows in person.